Sometimes the most profound threats don't arrive with a siren. They slip in quietly. I found myself awake early recently, the house completely still, praying for my kids, specifically asking for protection against a slow, creeping numbness that seems to be taking hold of so many. It is a quiet destruction, an apathy that just takes people. After that prayer, I opened the Bible to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33. The text opens with a very specific image. God tells Ezekiel to imagine a city, and on the wall of that city stands a watchman. Elevation provides a specific advantage, a line of sight that extends past the city gates to the very edge of the horizon. The watchman can identify an approaching sword long before the people walking in the streets below have any indication of danger. The text then lays out a terrifying accountability. If the watchman identifies that sword coming, but chooses to remain silent, the people are not warned. And if they fall, the text states that their blood is required at the watchman's hand, the one who held the horn but chose silence. But there is a counterbalance to this weight. If the watchman sounds the alarm and the people refuse to listen, the watchman has delivered their own soul. The responsibility ends at the trumpet. The conscience is clear. Today, the sword is visible from the wall. We are watching a severe mental health crisis unfold in real time. The statistics are entirely public. Anyone who has survived their own climb out of the dark, anyone who sees this danger early, carries the watchman's responsibility. The only choice left is whether or not to sound the alarm. This responsibility, this call to wake up and turn toward life, exists as a shared human frequency, expressed across virtually every culture and era. In the Yoruba tradition of Ifa, the foundational teaching is that beauty and human value are measured by character, the quality of your inner life, and the choices you make when you are unobserved. 2.5 millennia ago, the Tao Te Ching warned against the human desire to force or dominate our surroundings. The text observes that harmony is achieved only by returning to the natural rhythms of the earth, aligning with a flow that already exists. The Buddhist tradition builds its framework on a concept called pratitya samutpada, or dependent origination. It states that the belief that you exist entirely alone and apart from the whole, an illusion of human separation, is the specific mechanical root of human suffering. Across different languages and continents, the diagnosis remains consistent. When we isolate ourselves from our true nature, from our environment, and from each other, we begin to suffer. The mystical traditions push this even further inward. The 13th century Sufi master Ibn Arabi taught the concept of tajalli. He posited that the cosmos was born entirely out of love, making every single human a unique, unrepeatable disclosure of the divine. To numb yourself is to erase a perspective the universe can never replicate. In Kabbalistic texts, the mechanism for fixing this numbness is called teshuvah. Often translated as repentance, its precise mechanical meaning is return. It requires no punishment and no shame, only a deliberate pivot back toward your original source, the infinite light. Christian mystics mapped out this exact interior geography. Teresa of Avila described the soul as an inner castle, waiting to be explored. Meister Eckhart taught that the eye through which a human being sees the divine is the exact same eye through which the divine sees the human, a single unified point of perception. This ancient inward turn finds a parallel in modern laboratories. Researchers like Dr. Joe Dispenza studied the empirical science of neuroplasticity. They have found that the conscious choice to pivot redirects neural activity, physically dismantling obsolete habits and forging new synaptic pathways. At the subatomic level, this aligns with the observer effect in quantum mechanics. Physics demonstrates that the act of conscious observation alters the physical behavior and trajectory of particles. Attention itself functions as a creative force. These ancient chants and modern lab measurements both converge on a single variable: the power of human awareness to shift the trajectory of an experience. The 20th century monk Thomas Merton observed that the most significant human temptation is to settle for too little, to accept a numb, diminished existence and call it survival, rather than reaching for the scale of life you were actually designed for. You see this same urgency in modern peak performance. Voices like Tony Robbins act as contemporary translators for this ancient human urge, the need to break out of destructive loops and consciously engineer a life of purpose. This is the existential core of the Phoenix Project Foundation. We know we cannot save anyone else. The individual has to make their own choice. But we can categorically refuse to stay quiet on the wall while people walk blindly toward destruction. That brings us back to Ezekiel. The Hebrew text repeats a single word, Shuvu, Shuvu. Turn, turn. It functions as an urgent love letter from the divine, asking humanity to look at the horizon and choose a different direction. You do not have to remain stuck in the patterns you inherited or the habits you built yesterday. Every single morning offers a biologically and spiritually renewed opportunity. You can turn away from the apathy. You can choose life.